Alrighty then. Welcome back to another lesson. Tim Werner here, and today's subject is on power posing. First of all, I want to acknowledge that I guess I've got some flickering, thanks to the commenter who let me know that. I apologize for the annoying screen flicker. The commenter mentioned that it looks a bit like VHS tape, the horizontal or vertical hold. I love that. It's actually tempting for me to put that as an actual filter on the video. That would suit my style anyway. But know that I'm aware of that, and I'm experimenting with some different software settings with Camtasia. Anyway, enough about that. The subject I want to talk about now is called power posing. And this is a technique, a public speaking technique, developed by a professor at Harvard University, Harvard Business School, Amy Cuddy, C-U-D-D-Y. And according to my research assistant, ChatGPT, Cuddy, along with Dana Carvey and Andy Yap, published research in 2010 that claimed adopting body posture is associated with dominance and power posing, for as little as 2 minutes could increase testosterone levels, decrease cortisol, and improve performance. However, subsequent studies have questioned the scientific validity of these claims. All right, all I can tell you is that back in 2010, I was made aware of this stuff, decided to implement it. I've received good results and feedback from it, so I continue to use it. I believe in scientific quantitative research for sure, but I'm not interested enough in going down that rabbit hole to look for evidence. I'm fine qualitatively with how power posing has affected my work as a teacher and as a public speaker. Now, if you do a search for Amy Cuddy power poses, you can see some examples. But I'm talking about things like standing like Superman with your hands on your hips, or if you're standing over a table, you lean forward and brace your straight arms on the table. You stand facing your audience with an open position. These, I think, for me, are really helpful for a couple reasons. Adopting those poses does feel powerful, particularly when I'm at a tech conference and I'm standing in front of an honest-to-goodness audience. It's a little bit less effective now when I'm doing online training. Well, number one, I might not have my webcam on, but number two, as you can see, I'm just from the chest up, so I can gesticulate from the chest up, but not whole body. Again, I'm less concerned with demonstrating the brain chemicals and verifying it that way than I am just qualitatively. I feel more competent when I adopt these physical poses. So I wanted to surface this idea to you to see what you think about it. It's not a question of dominance in an aggressive way. It's a way to assert confidence. It's a way to bolster source credibility. Because how many times have you been in a classroom or listened to somebody speak who was very obviously freaked out and nervous? I've seen people literally trembling like a leaf, and you could hear their voice quavering, they were so afraid. I've seen people at the podium or at the front of a classroom shrinking their body instead of expanding it. You see, the notion of power posing is that you want your body to be open as possible. And to me, that transmits the message of sincerity, as opposed to standing with closed body posture, like with my arms folded. Supposedly, that could possibly be worked into a power pose as well, actually. But I personally always have been resistant to do arms folded because of its traditional linkage with insecurity and defensiveness, you know? All right, so I'm offering this as a tip, something that I've practiced and it's worked for me. It's helped me get over jitters, which I think are always to be expected before delivering a presentation or doing a public speech. Number two, it projects power. It projects source credibility. The body postures project confidence. And I believe this because feedback from my sessions, and also when I observe speakers who are either intentionally or unintentionally adopting some of these power poses as well. I remember distinctly, I know with COVID, it was a few years before any of us really were able to get up at the podium and give a presentation. But I have lots and lots of whole bunches of fond memories of feeling that surge. I'm getting a little tongue-tied here. Before COVID, I was accepted to speak at the Microsoft Ignite conference in Orlando. In one of my sessions, it was a prep session on AZ900, the Microsoft Azure Fundamentals Cert. There were like 2,000 people in that room. It was an enormous double capacity room. And as I was approaching down the hall, I was like, what's that crowd for? And then I was aghast to see that it was for me. And fortunately, I really don't get any jitters. I don't want to say any. I don't want to be too extreme. But it was validated to me a little bit with 23andMe, the DNA testing service. One of the marker tests that 23andMe has is an innate fear of public speaking. And at least according to my 23andMe report, my genetic markers are such that I'm less likely to have anxiety with public speaking. And that tracks because I hopped up on that stage as the room started to fill up with 2,000 people. And of course, I felt adrenaline. My breathing rate, heart rate is elevated. My muscles are flexing, so I'm starting to move, hopefully not spasmodically, but I'm moving. But I distinctly remember putting my hands on the table and looking straight out at the audience and physically embodying some of these power poses. And I could feel confidence surging within me. And it was a great presentation. I hope this is making sense. I think that it's just another asset to add to your toolkit, another tool to add to your toolkit, because look at it, regardless of whether you're in the information technology field, you want to be a successful business person, the ability to communicate clearly is tops, no matter what your job role. Even if you're not a manager, you're likely going to have occasions to where you're either informally or formally presenting to a group. It seems to me you want to do everything possible, not just to hone your actual message, which is obviously the most important element, but you want to bolster your message with as much other persuasive tools as possible. Thinking of your speech, there's another methodology that I have that I know I'll discuss in a future YouTube video, in which when I'm presenting, I have multiple tracks going simultaneously in my mind. I have one track that's focused on the content, another track that's focused on checking the pulse of my audience and looking for comprehension, looking for confusion, looking for upset. And I have a third, what I call a meta track, where I'm thinking of the logistics. How am I doing on time? Because it's critical that I don't waste anybody's time. If I'm going to end after 10 minutes, by gosh, I'm going to end after 10 minutes, you know? So I'm thinking of timing. I'm thinking of pacing. How much material do I have left? How are we doing with content? Is there anything that I need to switch up in terms of presentation or presentation style to better suit those first two tracks, namely the content and the audience? I have no idea if that multi-track thing is a skill that most technical trainers have. I have asked some of my experienced tech trainer friends, and they've admitted that they have this multi-track thing going on in their brain, but I don't think they're as conscious of it as I am, to where I've named these tracks and really leaned into them. But anyway, that's just an example of a powerful tool set that supplements the actual content of your presentation. These power poses, even over Zoom, you'll note that I gesticulate and I attempt these things even when I'm not in an in-person context. It's all in the name of helping to retain my audience's interest, help to keep their brain firing, because, I found that without dynamics, when somebody is speaking and presenting in too flat a way, and I'm not just talking monotonic speech like a robot, I'm talking about across-the-board flatness. That, to me, is a recipe for losing your audience. They're going to tune out, space out, think, why am I here? Not good. I want to constantly be probing and throwing out little popcorn kernels, as it were, that bonk people in the head in a loving way to remind them, yes, I'm here for a reason. I need to listen to this person and participate in this discussion. That's my goal anyway. Obviously, that's more difficult to do when I'm recording a Pluralsight course because I'm sitting here just with the company of my 3 rats, the brothers behind me, and I'm having to envision my students in my head. I know eventually my learners will be watching my pre-recorded content, so we'll have that connection, as it were. It's just an asynchronous connection. It's a different kind of connection. I guess that's what I'll wrap up in. To me, at least what I do in information technology, whether I'm teaching, recorded, or live, whether I'm writing, they're just different form factors of the same thing, teaching. And each has their own respective joys and pains, advantages and disadvantages, and applicability to certain audiences or other. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. See you next time.